Welcome to the March the 14th, 2001. It's happened in Grand Prairie as we bring you the history of our city and some of the people that have made history and are continuing to make history this very day. This is our history tape number 420, number 420, and we're very honored today. We have a very, very special couple that have been very important citizens here in Grand Prairie, Texas. And we're just so glad to get them on the dais today. Gene McClure, welcome to the set, young man.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lois, your beautiful wife, Lois.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have both of y'all with us today. Great members of the historical organization here in Grand Prairie. And of course have a track record second to none with many other things. And with your permission, we're going to ask Mr. Gene to be first. Is that all right with you, Lois?
Sure.
All right, and look out into your camera and start off by giving us your genealogy. Give us the name of your parents and your brothers and sisters and all of that, and then we'll get back with a few other questions.
Okay. My name is Gene Edwin McClure. I'm 68 years old, born in 1932. My mother was Livy Doyle McClure. My father was Mike Henderson McClure. Both of those from Tennessee.
From Tennessee. How
Tennessee.
wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Scottsville, Tennessee. And I was born in Dallas, 1932, July the 18th.
Okay.
I have one sister, about 2 years younger than me.
All right.
One brother,
Oh, you would name your sister.
Joyce McClure,
Okay.
and my brother, Mike McClure, is about 5 years younger than
5
me.
years younger. Is he the baby?
Yes.
He's the baby. Okay.
So there were three of us in the family.
All right. What brought your family to Dallas in 1932?
Well, I was born there. I don't really know why they came from Tennessee to Dallas,
All right.
but that's the way it ended up.
Okay. And what did your dad do for a living?
My dad,
Uh-huh.
he was in the grocery business, and he had a couple of grocery stores in Dallas,
All right.
and one cafe. He was in the cafe business.
All right. Did Gene, when he was a young man growing up, ever have to do any kind of work helping in the grocery store or helping in the cafe, or were you too young at that time?
No, I went to school in Dallas up until I was about 15 years old.
All right. Where did you start the school in Dallas? Do you
Well,
remember that?
I went to John F. Peeler.
Okay.
That was in Oak Cliff.
Yes.
And
Remember any favorite teachers you had at
Don't.
John Peeler? That's all too far gone.
too far back.
All right. And then after John Peeler, the next educational step you took?
All right. Well, the next educational step I took was I went into the Army when I was 15. And
Okay. All right. When you went into the Army, where did you go in to train?
Well, I left Dallas in 1947,
All right.
and I went to Fort Ord, California,
Oh, my.
and I took boot camp there.
All right.
Went overseas in May of 1948.
All right. Where
To-
did they take you?
I went to Korea,
Down there? Oh, my.
and I was overseas, just to make a long story short, I was overseas 3 years and 2 months, a grand total, without ever coming back. That was in a straight run.
Uh-huh.
And I served in 2 years in Korea, one during the war, one before the war, and then I was a year in Hawaii.
Okay. When you were in the Army and in your training, what sort of education did they give you?
I was in the infantry.
You were the infantry? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did you have any other responsibilities? Did you have any technical training or anything?
No
Gene?
technical training other than I was a heavy weapons infantryman. And,
Heavy weapons. You had to know about all of the heavy weapons.
Yeah,
Oh,
we had machine guns, mortars, and 75 recoilless rifles.
Okay, and y'all were responsible for keeping them clean and in working order and doing bad things to the Koreans or whatever?
That's right.
Okay. After your release from the Army, what happened to Mr. Gene then?
Well, I came out and I stayed out of the Army for about almost 2 years.
When you
And-
left Hawaii to come back here, where did you go?
Well, actually, what happened, I went to Korea in
All right.
1948.
Okay.
Then we left Korea and went to Hawaii, stayed a year there, then went back to Korea
Oh,
for
then
the war
back to Korea.
in 1950.
Okay, okay. I missed that 1950 lick. Okay. And then from 1950, what happened to Gene?
Well, in 1951, I came back from Korea
All right.
to the United States after 3 years overseas,
All right.
and I drove an ambulance in Dallas and Los Angeles, California, for about 2 years. Then I re-enlisted in the Army and went into the Airborne and was in the Airborne about 3 years at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
You got to travel all over, didn't
I've
you?
been everywhere,
You have been everywhere.
border to border and ocean to ocean
And you
overseas.
got to go back to Kentucky, which was real close to where your family came from Tennessee.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Fort
That-
Campbell, in fact, is right on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. Half of it's in Kentucky, half of it's in Tennessee.
And in the Airborne, what did you do?
I was a paratrooper.
Paratrooper. Oh, that was dangerous as Dallas, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and after the 3 years in the Airborne and as a paratrooper, what happened to Gene then?
Well, basically, I got married
All right.
in the last year.
All right, we're going to let you stay right here. We're not going to let you get married yet because I've got to get back to Lois.
Okay.
So you hang in there a minute, and I know where we are, but let's get to Lois. Lois, would you look out into camera and tell us about your family and a little bit about your genealogy?
Well, my dad was George Kraft, and my mother was Addie Elizabeth Runge Kraft, and I was born in 1930. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I have 1 sister and 1 brother still alive. The rest of them are deceased.
All right, but would you name all of them so they'll be on your record?
My oldest brother was Arthur Kraft, and my sister was Emmy Rust, and Betty Marie Kraft, and Inez Smith, and Buddy Kraft, and I got a twin brother, Clovis Kraft.
And you're a twin. Isn't that exciting? Oh, that's what I think you're one of the first twins that I've ever interviewed on this show, to my knowledge. And where were you born, Lois?
In Van Zandt County, Edgewood, Texas.
Edgewood, Texas. Okay. What'd your dad do for a living?
Farmer, he's just a farmer.
He was a farmer. Did you get to do any of the chores or help any of that when you were growing up?
Yes, I did.
Oh, that is great.
Hoe the the corn, and pick cotton.
Yes. All right. When you started to school, where did you begin your elementary schooling?
Well, a little bit of country school for about a year, and then they closed it down, and I had to go to Edgewood School.
All right. The little country school, what was the name of that one?
A garden school.
Garden School. All right. And that's in what county?
Van Zandt
Van
County.
Zandt. Okay. And then on to Edgewood School to the elementary grades. Did you have any favorite teachers or favorite subjects in elementary, or a real good friend that you were just glad to be in elementary school?
Well, let's see, Mr. Box was the principal, and I liked him real good. He was a
Okay.
7th grade teacher, and we're going to have a high school reunion in May the 31st, I believe it is, this
year.
50th anniversary.
Of your high school class?
Yes.
Or you think you're going to recognize some of those folks when they come back to there?
I don't know.
Will all of that be at Edgewood?
Be it down at Canton.
Down
Texas.
at Canton. Okay. All right. And going to Edgewood to school, and then where did you go to high school?
Edgewood.
At Edgewood too? Okay. And when you got into high school from the elementary grade, did you have favorite mentors or teachers that are favorite subjects or anything you want to talk about your high school?
Well, I like typing and shorthand. I
All
like
right.
that real good.
Good.
And But then after I finished school, I come to Dallas and went to work.
Okay, all right. And when you came to Dallas to go to work, what'd you do?
Worked for insurance company as file clerk.
All right, insurance company. That was about my second job when I was a young lady, yes, back in the dark ages. An insurance company gave a lot of us a good start when we were becoming into adulthood. Okay, and when you came, where did you meet Mr. McClure?
Well, through a girl that worked where I did. Her husband knew him, and he come home on a weekend pass.
Yes.
And I met him through a friend at work.
And that was while he was still a paratrooper? Oh, I bet he was handsome and all of this good stuff. And in that uniform, were you impressed?
Yeah.
You really were impressed. Okay. Let me see. After you married, and how long was it until he got out of the paratroopers? I think I ought to ask him this, don't you? All right. Now you've met her, and you've married, and you were a paratrooper, and you came to Dallas, and are you going to substantiate all of that?
That's all true.
That all of that is true. All right. Who proposed?
I did.
Oh, listen at that. He's taking responsibility, isn't it? Okay, and you proposed and y'all were married. Did you take her back to Fort Campbell, or did you phase out of the Army, or what?
We lived at Fort Campbell for 1 year.
1 year, okay.
And after I got married, and then I was discharged
All
after
right.
7 years total in the Army.
All right.
And then I came back to Dallas,
All right.
and this was in 1957.
All right.
And 1 month later, I got on the Grand Prairie Police Department.
Oh.
And
Give me that date that you went to the work for the Grand Prairie Police
all right,
Department.
it was March 15th, 1957.
1957 for the Grand Prairie Police Department. Who sent you in this direction? How did you find out they were needing police?
Well, I had a friend named Claude Johnson. He was on Dallas County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
Working for Bill Decker.
Yes.
And they didn't have any openings there, so he brought me over here and introduced me to Buster Adams, chief of police here at that time.
Uh-huh.
And he said, well, we need 3 men, and we're giving a test under civil service rules
Yes.
in about a week, so take that test, and if you pass it, well, we'll probably hire you. So
Okay.
that's what happened, and I've been a policeman ever since.
And that's what brought you to Grand Prairie. Did you move on to Grand Prairie, Texas, or did you stay in Dallas?
No, I moved right into Grand Prairie
Oh,
because
man.
you couldn't live in Dallas and work
That's
for
right.
Grand Prairie at the time.
That's right.
So I moved right into Grand Prairie, and I adopted Grand Prairie as my hometown.
All
after
right.
that.
And of course, you brought Lois right along with you.
Right with me.
Okay, that's wonderful. And now you're a full-fledged policeman. And what was your first job on the police department in Grand Prairie?
Well, I was a patrol officer out on the street in a patrol car for about 9 years, and then I made sergeant. And the next 6 years, I was a patrol sergeant in charge of a shift. And so that was 14 years that I served with Grand Prairie PD from 1957 until 1971.
All right. And
At which time I bought a farm out in Wise County, Texas. That's due north of Fort Worth. And I bought an 80-acre farm out there and decided I wanted to raise my children out in the country.
all right, but now you're going to have to stop right here because she's going to have to name the kids.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Sure.
All right. Now, in the meantime, while y'all moved to Grand Prairie and he's being a policeman and you're having this wonderful family, name your children.
Well, son is Gene Edward McClure and Jeannie Darlene McClure.
Okay, you have the 2 children.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay. Where are they now?
He lives at Bridgeport and she lives at Granbury.
At Granbury. You let them get away from Grand Prairie, didn't you? But you let them, one of them go to a town that sounds almost like Grand Prairie, doesn't it? Okay, do they have children?
Yeah, she has 2 daughters,
All right, let's name your granddaughters.
Christy and Summer Hope.
Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so you have 2 children and 2 granddaughters.
Yes.
Okay, well, we're going to go back to Gene because we have him going into being farming. Did you go with him to the farm?
Yes.
Oh, you took her to the farm up in Wise County. I think that's exciting. How did that pan out for you, Mr. Gene?
Well, I didn't really go into farming. What I did, I went up there and went to work for the Decatur Police Department.
All right.
And then after that, I went to work for the Wise County Sheriff's Office, and
Okay.
I was a chief deputy there under Sheriff Moyers.
Sheriff Moyers.
Uh-huh.
All right.
And then from there, I went to the Montague County Sheriff's Office
Uh-huh.
as chief criminal investigator under Sheriff W.F. Conway.
All right, now you've come from being all of these other things that has a hands-on into doing investigation. Did you have some training, special training for that? You have to go to school?
Oh yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, of course, I got my GED in the Army.
All right.
High school
That's
diploma.
good, okay.
Then I went to college here in Dallas at
right.
El Centro. I heard your previous.
Yes.
He went there also. I went there, and also to Arlington State College for a couple of semesters.
All right.
And so I got all together, and plus police schools of just about every kind you can think of.
Yes.
And so I have approximately, I don't know, maybe 1,500 hours or more
Wow.
school and police work.
All right, I have you now in the Sheriff's Department in Montague County.
Right.
And as an investigator, what happened to Gene then?
Well, the sheriff lost his job, and when he lost his job, of course, I lost mine.
All right, all right. When he ran for election and lost it, all right.
That's
then,
right.
Then what happened to Gene then?
Well, then, wasn't too long after that I had a couple of massive heart attacks, and that just about put me out of the police business.
Okay, and
Good.
what did you decide you were going to do with the rest of your life when you had this heart problem?
Well, I decided I'd come back to town where the doctors and the hospitals, and
Yes.
of course, that retired me completely. I was 54 years old when I had these two massive heart attacks,
Wow.
and I almost died from it. So I had to get out of the country and come back to Grand Prairie after 18 years absence, you see.
Yes, uh-huh.
So I came back here and bought my home, and I've been retired ever since.
Been retired ever since, and all of this time, Lois has really been a good supporter, and she took care of the kids, got them all through school, and all of this thing, and followed you to Wise County through all of these different things.
Exactly. Yeah, 45 years of marriage.
45 years. Congratulations. I think that's wonderful. And you've never worked out of the home, have you, Lois?
Yes.
You did work out of the home. Tell us what you did.
Well, at Wise County, there's not much jobs up there to do. I did some at sewing factories.
All right.
And last year, part-time, I worked at the shoe factory where we made shoes. And
That is exciting, isn't it? Oh, that is wonderful. Aren't you glad you could keep her working so you could live retirement and go fishing and doing all this other good stuff? Oh, that
I
is.
was raising hogs and cows, too.
And all during this other time you had.
Yes, I was.
Uh-huh. Do you like the hog and cow business?
I'll guarantee you, cows are a lot better than hogs.
Yes.
At one time, I had a total of 100 hogs of all sizes, 6 sows and 1 boar. And I guarantee you, a hog farmer, he earns his living.
He earns his living, doesn't
Big
he?
time.
All right.
But I was doing that just part-time, and then, of course, my police business.
Your police
was-
business,
yeah.
too. All right. And you helped him a little bit in all of that stuff, too,
Yes.
didn't you, Lois? Okay. Next, we want to talk about your book.
Okay.
All right. Let's get your book up, and
All right.
whatever prevailed upon you to do all of this research and to do the history of the police department for the city of Grand Prairie, Texas. In 1971, you completed it.
Well, 1971, I actually left the police department here, so it was probably about I don't know, must have been 1998.
All right. When you finished that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. What happened was we formed an association, the Grand Prairie Police Department Alumni Association,
Uh-huh.
and consisting of about 120 ex-members, most of them old-time people,
All right.
going all the way back to 1949 on up until the present time, really.
Yes.
And so I ended up being appointed as the historian.
All right.
So I thought, well, nothing has ever been written about the Grand Prairie Police Department and very little about Grand Prairie on paper.
All right.
So I decided to do a book on the Grand Prairie Police Department.
I think that is wonderful.
And that's how that came about.
Did you interview people, or did you take from the records, or how did you do your research at the library? Tell us what facilitated all of this.
Well, going back as far as about 1950, of course, I know a lot of officers, including Chief Fred Conover. He went to work about 51 or 2.
Yes.
And several other people. And so I know them real well, and the rest of it I could relate myself, but most of it came from research at the library in Dallas and Grand Prairie.
Grand Prairie,
Where they had microfilm, newspaper accounts, plus the Grand Prairie Police Department under Fred Conover, way back about 1965 or somewhere in there, started clipping newspaper clippings of every incident that involved police activity.
How wonderful.
And they kept albums of it.
Yes.
The secretaries did. And so we have about 25 or 30 albums just full of these newspaper accounts that were clipped out at the time. And so there's a lot of history there, and the Police Department Association has those. And then we have this book here, and that's where the history's at.
Well, I think that is just a wonderful contribution. I know that Cleta Pollock Shaw is doing, I believe,
What
another
she calls
history.
a yearbook.
Is she doing the yearbook part of that? Do you know when that is to be off the press? Or?
It's been in the making for approximately close to 2 years now, 1.5 to 2 years.
Does that take up where you left off?
Supposedly that's where it takes up in 1971. This goes from 1909 to 1971.
Yes, okay.
Which is when I left the police department.
Yeah,
So after that I don't really know what happened.
Yeah.
And their book will take up about 1971 on up to the present time.
On to the present time.
With lots of pictures in it and things of that nature.
Charles Billy Powers will be so excited. He's the president of our historical organization, as you well know.
Yeah.
So he really does enjoy receiving people in Grand Prairie that are helping to preserve the history of Grand Prairie, and that's really been wonderful. In doing your book, who did you find to be probably one of the most interesting characters, I'll put it that way, in your police history, or some of the exciting things that you were able to document?
Well, of course, we just lost, I would mention that we just lost about a week ago, we lost our oldest living chief of police, Woody Rawlins.
Yes, I saw that.
Passed away.
Yes.
So he's gone, he's not here anymore. Hadn't been, he's had Alzheimer's and hadn't been able to talk to him
And
for
Chief
over
Burr,
a year.
you lost Chief Burr, too.
And Burr, we lost him previously.
Yes,
And so Chief Conover now is the oldest living
Chief Fred
ex-chief of
Conover.
police, Fred Conover. Well, Buster Adams, but he's in Florida, so he's not around here.
He's not around here in Grand Prairie.
No, it's hard to keep up with him. But anyway, he was just before Adams now.
I
For
see.
about 5 years, he was chief of police here. He was chief in 1955, took over from Rawlins
Yes.
when I think they had a city council, new city council and mayor came on with a reform party, as they called it.
All right.
In about 1950, 03 and 4, and they said when we get to be city council and the mayor, we will replace the chief of police, who was Woody Rawlins at the time, and we're going to straighten everything up here. So it was a reform ticket, and they won.
I see.
And just right to their word, shortly after they were sworn in, 4 city councilmen, I think Mayor Weems, he had a rerun his election, you know, because it was so close and everything.
Yes.
And then he won. So all of the Reform Party won. The new members were in, the old members was out. And the first thing they did was call Bill Decker and said, we need somebody over here to run this police department right away until we can find a new chief of police here, because the old one is going to be gone.
Yes.
So Decker said, well, I can send you my best man, Buster Adams.
Yes.
And so he did send Buster Adams over here, who was a sergeant at the time on patrol until he got shot by a guy, an outlaw over there in Dallas named Cherry. Shot him in the arm. Then Decker brought him inside, letting him work around the office, and Decker got to liking him, so made him his right-hand man.
Yes.
So he sent him over here, and he became chief of police. Buster Adams did.
Who was your favorite chief of police that you served under?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. It was Red Conover.
Red Conover. He was a very, very fine chief of police.
Adams hired me, but at the same time, he's a good man, you know,
Yes.
good chief of police.
Yes.
He put our department on a more professional level than it had ever been before. And started standards, you know, before you could hire a man, he had to be really checked out close. He had to pass examinations under civil service. And he brought civil service to the Grand Prairie Police Department, as a matter
All
of
right.
fact.
Your book. Is your book available at a cost? And if so, can we buy it?
Yeah, it's $20, and that's
Okay.
about what it costs to
Print it.
print it, so
Yeah.
it's available.
And they can get them from you, and you have a magic telephone number that you can give us?
I'm in the phone book.
You're in the phone book. Okay, we'll just go to the phone book, and that way if we want one of the copies of your books, we'll just be able to do that.
Sure can.
Now, we have about a minute and a half left on the show. I want you to look out into your camera. I want you to talk to the young people that might be looking at serving as a policeman, and tell them what an exciting thing it is and how dedicated you have to be to do it. You've got about a minute.
Okay. There's not a lot of money in police work, but there's a lot of satisfaction in helping other people. We need to fight crime every step of the way. It's already gaining too much of a hold on our society, and you can play a part in that. If you decide that you want to make law enforcement your career, first thing you've got to do is get at least 2 years college or more. And you can get it in law enforcement, judicial system, and so forth, and then go to work in just about any police department you want to, large or small, don't make any difference. They're all fighting crime and doing a pretty good job of it, but it's hard.
Hard work, isn't it?
Hard work.
Yes. I want to thank you two very, very much. I want to thank you first for working so hard in the historical organization. That's really important, the things that you're doing. And thank you for being such good citizens, being former employees of the Grand Prairie Police Department, but especially for your book. We think you've done yeoman's work on that, and want to thank you so much for being here, Mr. Gene. Lois, thank you for putting up with him all these years when he was doing hogs and cows and moving you to Bowie and around and about, but he's still a wonderful husband and father and grandfather. Thank y'all for being here. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.